Good afternoon. I welcome you all in the course of research methodologies and scientific writing. My name is Dr. Khalid Amin. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Is there any distortion in my voice?
No, sir.
Okay. How many students are enrolled in my course? Maybe it's 16 or 17. Is there any student who was not previously being my student? Any new client this class? Anyone who has qualified his or her MSc from another university other than Mirpur University? Or we have all of our ex-batch students? Is there any new student in this class? Please respond. Unmute the mic. Anyone who has not qualified his or her MSc from Mirpur University? Any student from any other university other than Mirpur University?
Yes, sir. I am from Muzaffarabad.
Okay. What's your good name, please?
Sir Nazish Majid.
Okay. My name is Dr. Khalid Hamid, and I am assistant professor here in Department of Zoology, and my field of specialization is parasitology. As
Okay,
far
sir.
as my education is concerned, mean I attended Army Bernal School and College, and then I also attended Government Gordon College during my FSc. I graduated from University of Punjab. I have my MSc, MPhil, and PhD from Arid Agriculture University. My PhD research was on characterization of mange mites and dermatophytes from domestic animals of district Chitral. So I work most of the time with parasitology, and as an epidemiologist, I have more than a decade experience handling data set and writing those manuscripts. So these are my few previous publications. I mean, I reported Sarcoptes gabii for the first time in lynx throughout the world. I also reported Trichophyton verrucosum. It's a fungal infection from livestock because previously we have infection in ringworm infection in human, but we never ever, Trichophyton verrucosum was never ever reported previously from Chitral district. Secondly, as I work with epidemiology, so I also work in collaboration with other universities. So I remained a part of a research project of a PhD scholar in UVAS, and I designed and analyzed that research that was on fasciolosis of Azad Jammu and Kashmir. I also collaborated with Mir Ahmad Khan in his project that was on Theileria. Once again, it's a parasite in Balochistan. So my role in most of the time, either writing the manuscript, designing the research, and carry out data analysis. So these are my specialties. So with these all publications in my background and experience, I will try my level best to facilitate you people in this course. The main objectives of this course is to introduce scholars to the basic of research and research designs in biology. I do not know much about the lady from Muzaffarabad other than that, as far as our students are concerned, during their MSc, we do not offer them research. So it's all about the coursework during the MSc, so they do not have any previous experience of conducting any research. So it will be, this course will start from the basics of research, and then I will help you people to conduct your research independently. As research is a systematic way of, and it's an activity that follows specific techniques. So my purpose in this course is to train you people to carry out your research independently, because most of the time when students, they eventually switch to the research, they face lots and lots of hurdles, and they need to seek help from so many people. So if you know how to design your research, how to conduct your experiment, and if you have a very clear understanding how to analyze your data set, and then scientific writing is all about techniques. It's not a blunt light writing. Rather, you have to restrict yourself to the more logics and arguments. So I will help you people to develop all your skills so that you can conduct your research project independently. As far as the contents are concerned, these are all details. I will going to provide you a soft copy of those contents. Meaning of research, objective, significance of research, research process, criteria to good research. And there are problems that are being faced by the researchers in Pakistan. So we're going to have a comprehensive discussion on all those stuff. And then we will switch to research problems, how we need to define research problem, how we can select a research problem, what are the techniques that are involved in defining a problem. And then, it's not always necessary that, for every researcher to have grip on each and every aspect and to have skills developed for every stage of research. Sometimes you have people who can facilitate you in your research, but my objective in this course is that if you have a basic understanding of everything, that all things, they will become simple and you will be able to understand and you can handle all those problems when you are going to conduct your research project. And then ultimately you have to develop your hypothesis, and then how to review a literature. And then during the course, I will try that maybe I will give you an assignment that you have to carry out a systematic review. And then we're going to discuss research and sampling designs, and then how to collect data. There are certain techniques to collect the data, because whether you are going to conduct a survey or you are going to carry out a highly specialistic research project that involves more and more advanced instrument, one thing you need to understand is that at the end of your research, what you will going to get is the data. Whether you used a PCR, whether you used ELISA, whether you used any other modern instrument, or you just used a questionnaire. At the end of your research, you only get the data. And you need to understand how to handle the data. If you have the skills to how to collect the data and then how to process it, to analyze it, research becomes quite simple for you people. And then in the last section, we're going to discuss the writing. We usually say that writing is difficult for everyone. But if you know the techniques, how to carry out writing in science, although it will be challenging, but if you are doing something difficult, that is, it's not only difficult, it will not be difficult for you, rather it is difficult for everyone. Even with those people who are specialistic in writing is never ever easy, because it's a synthetic writing. So I will try my level best to facilitate you, to train you with all those skills, how to write in science. And at the end of this course, we're going to discuss how to get some funding at the project, and brief introduction about main funding agencies. We have funding agencies like Higher Education Commission, Pakistan Science Foundation, European Union, and USAID. During this course, one of the reference book which I will going to use will be Research Methodology, a step-to-step guide for beginners. And it's an Indian author book by Ranjit Kumar. I have a soft copy of this book. Secondly, this book is also available in your library, departmental library. So that's one reference book which you can consult during this course. Secondly, I have another soft copy of a book that has a title like Research Methodology, Methods and Techniques. That's once again, it's an Indian author book, but still it's very, very useful. And I'm going to provide you the soft copy. You also have the hard copy in your department. The third book which I am going to consult during this course is Research Methodology and Scientific Writing. It's from an author from a developed country, so it's very, very well written, George Thomas. In addition to these books, you can access the literature from anywhere. As far as my teaching style is concerned, you do not need to remain silent and listen to me. If you have any question during any time, you just need to unmute your mic and you just ask it directly. Do you have any question regarding this? And now we can start. Any question?
No, sir, no question.
Any question regarding the learning objectives, contents, and the literature that you will going to use as a reference? Secondly, you can access the literature from anywhere. So I will going to ask you a question. That in science, we use the word research. Why not search? Because in your understanding, most of the time when we start thinking about the research, we think that someone is doing something new. And when the new word comes in your mind, it must be search. And in your normal conversation, you always use the word, I am searching for this. And when it comes to the science, why we use the word research instead of search? Just feel free and just try to give me some explanation.
Sir, because we are exploring the existing knowledge.
There are certain research that are exploratory in nature. So they explore something new. And if something is already being identified, then what's the purpose of conducting the research? For me, we have a medium of teaching as English, so you are free to use any language. Just tell me, give me your idea that why not search instead of we use the word research. Research again, this gives an impression that it's an again search. Who searched it previously? No one searched. Most of the time, research is novel and new. Ladies, and maybe if there are some gentlemen, please answer this question.
सर फैक्ट्स और फिगर्स के साथ जो तहकीक की जाए उसको रिसर्च कहते हैं और इसमें ऑथेंटिसिटी ज़्यादा मैटर करती है आई थिंक सो.
So what you want to say is that research is a systematic way of looking for something. While in case of search, we are not systematic most of the time. We do not follow certain procedures. We do not follow certain guidelines. We do not follow certain rules. So when you are doing something randomly, when you are looking for something randomly, that search, and in research, it's a method of conducting something that follows certain principles, that follows certain authentic methods. It's something that is systematic in nature. So that's the definition you are going to get from the Google. Maybe someone Googled it, but still the question remains as it is. Still we have about something like research. Why? They would have used something else for a scientific. Okay, instead of using research, they may have used the word like scientific search. So that becomes a systematic way of doing the research. Any volunteer?
सर इसमें हम साइंटिफिक मेथड यूज करते हैं रिसर्च में ऑब्जर्वेशन जैसे हो जाती है, जैसे डिडक्शन हम करते हैं, स्पेसिफिक टू जनरल, जनरल टू स्पेसिफिक, वो वाले रूल सारे साइंस के फॉलो करते हैं। उसके अलावा सर हम इससे वर्ल्ड वाइड भी देखते हैं, जो काम किया हुआ होता है दूसरों के काम को कंटिन्यू भी करते हैं, उसमें एडिशन भी करते हैं।
So by doing all that thing, that switches the name from search to research. Mean it's a systematic way of looking for something. I absolutely agree with this. But why they use the word research? That gives a huge sense that something is being conducted again. Yes, sometimes we verify the findings of others. That is also a research, but it's not always true. Sometimes someone is conducting something, come up with a novel discovery. In that case, the person is not verifying the findings of someone else. So research, anyone who wants to explain it, and then I will come up with, I will going to float my idea. You have 30 seconds to respond, and then I will going to share my idea about research. Any volunteer? So for me, it's a systematic way, absolutely true. Uses a scientific method, guaranteed. But in my opinion, we would use the word research, because when someone is conducting something, doing something in science, some idea develop in the mind of that person. Maybe that idea is wrong, and maybe that thing is true. There are two possibilities. But some idea develop in the mind of a researcher. So he has something in his mind, and then doing the scientific, using the scientific method, carrying out a systematic study, that person verifies his or her idea. So that makes it a research. And that's why we use the word research instead of search. Have you got my point? For example, if you feel that, if for giving example from my side, that for example, if I want to conduct a research on the seasonal distribution of malaria in Mirpur, Jammu and Kashmir. So before conducting that research, the idea that came in my mind was that maybe season has some association with the malarial disease. As it is a vector-borne disease, so it's definitely a seasonal disease. But I'm using the very, very simple example to give you a very clear idea. That, for example, if I really doubt, so I have doubt in my mind that maybe the season is affecting the existence of malaria in certain area. So season in my mind is a factor that affects malaria. So before conducting that scientific activity, I have an idea in my mind. So that idea, now I will going to verify that idea. That's why we have a word like research. For example, another example, if someone conducts a research on prevalence of certain disease in male and female, the idea that developed in the mind of a researcher was definitely at the start that the gender affects the disease. The disease is more common in one gender as compared to another. I mean, maybe it's more common in male or female or female or male. And now by conducting the research, the person verifies whether the idea is true or it's wrong. There are two possibilities. Maybe he will going to find evidences that will going to support his idea, or maybe he will going to find evidences that will going to reject his ideas. So that's why for scientific study, we use the word research instead of search. How many of you agree with that explanation?
I agree, sir.
Are you sure?
Yes, sir.
So you verify when you conduct the research, because you verify the idea that comes in your mind. So there are two ways of verification. I just want to link it. If you do not have any, if you are still confused, please tell me so that I can give you some other examples and I will try to explain it better way, because now the second thing is more linked. Do we have any confusion? Do you agree with my explanation? Is there anyone who failed to get this concept? Silence means you all get the concept and you agree with that explanation. So I will going to add another thing to this. That okay, you verify your ideas by conducting a scientific study or research. So there are two methods, I mean, how you can verify something. There are two ways we can verify something. Either to prove it or disprove it. Disprove means reject it. So give yourself a little bit time. If you try to prove something, And I used to give a very common example of color of a bird, like crow. So the idea that comes in the mind of a researcher that, okay, the crow is black. If someone wants to prove that crow is black and the person has a data of maybe 100,000 birds from many different locations, do you think that the person can, with the certainty, can claim that all the crows in the world are black in color? Please answer this question. If someone has a data, maybe 5 million or 10 million crows, with 10 million crows, the person can confirm that all the crows in the world are black in color. That's a very common example. There is a possibility that there may be a single bird at any part of the world that has some another color. So if you try to prove something in science, doing a scientific and systematic study, if you try to prove something, it does not make any difference how much data you have, how much evidence is that favors your idea. Still, you are never ever sure that what you think is true. But when you try to reject something, if you have one bird that has a color other than the black, with certainty, you can claim that all the birds, they do not have the black color. Using an example of a crow. If you have a single crow that do not have a black color, with certainty you can claim. So when you conduct the research, you do not look for the evidences that tries to prove your hypothesis. Normally, when we're going to later on during the course, when we're going to discuss the hypothesis, you are going to realize that there are always a pair of hypotheses. One is the null hypothesis and the other one is alternate hypothesis. So you never ever try to prove the null hypothesis when you conduct a systematic study. Because as with previous examples, for example, if I were going to use the case of a disease like malaria, if I want to know that whether malaria exists in Rawalakot or not, and I try to, yes, do you have any question? Someone unmuted the mic. So for example, if I want to know that whether the malaria exists in Rawalakot or not, if I have a data of 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 normal cases who are negative for the malaria, do you think with certainty I can claim that malaria do not exist in Rawalakot? Maybe there is someone in the Rawalakot who is positive for the malaria. and that person is not included in my sample. So if I try to prove something, it becomes impossible even by increasing the data, my data size, my sample size. If I will going to increase my sample size more higher, and I try to prove something, I will fail to prove that. But if I will going to have only one single case of malaria in Rawalakot, with certainty I can reject the claim that malaria is not present in Rawalakot. So when you conduct the research, the only purpose of getting all those discussion and all those complicated ideas, giving you all those examples, is that when you conduct the research, you never ever try to prove anything. When you conduct the research, you look for the evidences to reject. Because you can reject with certainty, but you cannot accept something with certainty. In science, we do not try to prove the true. We look for the evidences. We do not never ever prove a statement. We always look for the evidences to reject the statement. Just I will going to add my argument by using those, maybe it's an example from the metric or even in 9th class, that someone came up with a claim that living organisms, they can originate from non-living things. So people, they never ever try to prove that statement. People, they rejected that statement. So they just conducted the experiment to reject. And finally, they managed to reject it with certainty. So when you conduct the research, you do not look for the evidences to prove anything. We look for the evidences to reject the statements. So maybe someone may be thinking that sometime in your in research papers, they accept the null hypothesis. Sometimes you reject the null hypothesis and sometimes you accept the null hypothesis. And maybe someone is thinking that when they accept the null hypothesis, that means they declare that null hypothesis true. When you conduct a research, there are two possibilities, that maybe you will going to find the evidences that you are able to reject it. And when you reject it, you have certainty that, okay, this is wrong. And maybe you do not find any evidence to reject it. And when you do not have any evidence to reject it, in that case, you cannot reject that null hypothesis. And when you cannot reject that null hypothesis, in that case, you have to accept the null hypothesis. And when you accept the null hypothesis, acceptance does not mean true. Acceptance means I do not have sufficient evidences to reject the null hypothesis. That means you do not find anything. That's why when you will going to conduct any research and you will going to see lots and lots of null hypotheses, they are being accepted, and your maybe professor will going to tell you that your results are non-significant. And when they see lots and lots of variables, they are non-significant, most of the variables non-significant. So normally people, they claim that you do not have any finding. And few students or scholars, they say that, okay, if I accept the null hypothesis, that is itself is a finding. No, it's not a finding. When you accept the null hypothesis, you claim that you do not have any evidences to reject it. That means you actually do not have a finding. That's why lots and lots of people, they really want to get some significant results. Because when they reject it with certainty. Science do not prove anything. Science only rejects. And that's the key concept for this course. Do you have clear understanding what I want to convey my idea? Do you have any question? Is it clear? Is it clear?
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, you said science only reject. अगर साइंस सब चीजें रिजेक्ट करती है तो फिर एक्सेप्ट कौन करता है?
mean, when you accept something, give me
Yes,
an
sir.
example. Give me an example.
सर आपने कहा ना कि साइंस एक्सेप्ट नहीं करती, साइंस रिजेक्ट करती है, तो
हाँ।
फिर जब कोई हाइपोथेसिस या कोई थ्योरी एक्सेप्ट करती है, एक्सेप्ट हो जाती है, तो फिर वो कौन एक्सेप्ट करता है, साइंस नहीं करती तो?
For example, I will give you some really concrete concept. Just try to get that idea. For example, for a very limited period of time, today we have an established fact that nucleus is controlling everything. Do you agree with this? Nucleus is the control center for the cell.
Okay, sir.
Okay, you keep your mic on mute, no issue, so that you can. So we accept that until unless someone, maybe it's possible that then in the future someone will come up with something new, that okay, it's not the
Yes.
DNA. DNA itself is being controlled by something else.
Right.
So we accept the DNA and we accept the nucleus as a control center to the point until unless we will going to look find an evidence and
Yes, sir.
someone will to evidence to reject it. Okay, it's not the DNA. Maybe someone will come up that with something new organelle, maybe after 50 years, 100 years, maybe it's possible.
Yes, sir.
Someone will come up with something new that, okay, actually the DNA is not master. DNA itself has another master. Because what happened in science, if you look at the history, that previously we accepted something and someone will come up and say, tell me, okay, that's not true. And then we develop another idea, okay, it's true.
Yes, sir.
And someone will come up, okay, no, this is not true. You have to switch it. And then people, they develop another thing, okay. All the discoveries of the science, they were made through rejection. People, they use the word that at any time when you accept the null hypothesis, they say your results are non-significant. Non-significant means you do not have any finding. And all those discoveries in science are being attributed through rejection. And there is nothing fixed in science. People, they develop statements, they develop theories, and ultimately those theories, they got rejected. And then another theory will come. And maybe you are thinking about few laws that, okay, Newton first law, second law, or something else, okay, they are being accepted. How they got accepted? People, they tried their level best to reject them, but they failed to find any evidence to reject them. So people, they are thinking, okay, it's possible, okay, they are true. So with lots and lots of failures in rejection, give that statement more and more credit, more and more acceptance. And with more and more acceptance, few and few people, lots and lots of people, they start agreeing with that statement. And eventually, at one time, people, they do not try to reject that thing because they feel that, okay, that statement is not rejectable. So that becomes a law. But who knows that at any time in the world, anyone can, from any part of the world, may come up with an idea that is able to reject that. And at that time, once again, you have to switch that all the concept. Because when the person will come up with a rejection, he will come up with a conclusive evidences. Do you agree? You just feel comfortable. If you are not convinced, do not make yourself feel like convinced. I mean, you have all the right. So please, do you have? Is it clear? Just feel comfortable and tell me.
Yes, sir. I did.
Just try to think on this. You can use any language. If you disagree from me, please, I respect those who disagree from me. So just try to think on it. If you disagree, and I respect it. So now you are clear about the research and what we look for when we conduct for the research. We look for the evidences to reject that idea. And when we fail to reject that idea, we claim rejection. But we never ever claim true. Rather, we claim acceptance. Acceptance is a very soft word. I accept. When you accept, that means you do not have any evidences. But that does not mean you never ever claim true. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Are you convinced? So you will have time, and even in future lectures at any time, if you have any idea, just feel free to share. That's my ideas towards the science. And you are always more than welcome to reject me. So when it comes to the research is a systematic way of answering a question based on some types of observation. So it must be undertaken within the framework of set of philosophies. We use certain procedures, methods, and techniques that are being tested for the validity and reliability. So what is validity? When we conduct the research, there are two things. A lot of people they stress on it. That your method should be valid and reliable. Your technique should be valid and reliable. What do you mean by the validity? Any volunteer? In statistics, we use the word validity. When your instruments is testing the same, what it claims to test. That means valid means true, right approach. When your design answers the same question, what you are looking for, in that case, your design is true. Your technique must be addressing the same research problem, valid. My explanation can only be valid if I'm going to address the exactly same person. If I will going to say things from here and there, that will not be valid. So in research, We use methods, techniques that has already been tested for validity, that you must need to use methods, procedures, techniques that are true, that are the right choices. Your instruments must be measuring the same thing what they claim to measure. And second thing is the reliability. Reliability mean, in statistics we use the word reliability, that when some method is being used again and again in different conditions and it's giving the right results, that means the instrument is reliable. So there is a difference between the validity and the reliability. Validity is whether the instrument is measuring the same what it claims to measure, and reliability is that your technique must work with the same efficiency in different conditions. Your method should be work with the same accuracy in one conditions and in another conditions. So for research, must require to take within framework a set of philosophies. It uses procedures that are valid and reliable. And as a researcher, the first prominent thing is that it must be unbiased and objective. A researcher cannot be biased. Why we conduct the research? Research has application. And secondly, it's all your interest when you want to answer something, when you are confused, when something stuck in your mind. Because confusion is the first step towards the understanding. So it's the curiosity for which people they are conducting the research. When it comes to the types of research, there are two types of research. One is the basic research and other one is applied research. What do you mean by the pure or basic research in biology? Any volunteer? Can you give me some examples of the basic research, and then it's another word is applied research? What's the difference between them? And why we just split it the research into the basic research and applied research? Any volunteer? Is there any distortion in my voice? Can you hear me properly? Is my voice clear?
सर सबके लिए क्लियर नहीं है, डिस्टॉर्शन हो रही है, कुछ स्टूडेंट्स कह रहे हैं कि हमें रिकॉर्डिंग चाहिए.
Okay, in that case, I will give you the recording, no issue. But if my voice is clear to some student, that means there is no issue from my side.
Okay, sir.
So please answer this question. What's the difference between the basic and applied research? Basic research is for the generation of knowledge. And applied research has some application. What do I mean by this? In basic research means it's at any time when you will going to read the word basic and they will going to relate it, it's for the generation of the knowledge. For example, if someone is working on diversity of sandflies in Mirpur. So sandfly is a vector of leishmaniasis. So someone who wants to identify, he will going to take all those, he will going to collect the sandflies from different localities of Mirpur and then eventually identify all of them. And maybe the person will going to get a new species, maybe he will going to find the same species and he will going to maybe he will have fewer species, maybe the species number will be high. In that case, that research has only one purpose. That kind of research is for the generation of the knowledge. That you generate the knowledge that in my location, how much diversity of sandflies exists in this. And even that's true for the world. All those people who tries to identify new and new species, that has no other purpose but to generate knowledge, to increase our understanding. Someone who is working on population of certain wildlife species, once again is for the generation of knowledge. Someone who is characterizing the metals in the water reservoirs, once again is generation of knowledge. When you generate knowledge, it increases our understanding. Do not confuse it. Means both basic and applied research, they have their own scope. There is no concept of better and less. Rather, both have their own scope. So basic research is for generation of knowledge, and applied has some application. And application, when we use the word application, it must have some application in industry, science and technology. Someone developing an instrument, someone developing a new diagnostic tool, that's not for the generation of knowledge. Rather, it has an application. More rapid diagnostic assays, applied, because they will be used to diagnose those diseases. Is it clear? Do you have any question? So I will going to send the recording to the coordinator, Department of Zoology. That's all over for today's lecture, and we're going to continue from the same place tomorrow. Do you have any questions? Just feel comfortable and ask. Class dismissed.
No,